What's up, team? Today we're going to talk about some bad graphs. This is not an official lesson, I suppose. It's just an additional building on what we have been talking about. We've been talking about key features of graphs, finding maximums, minimums, y-intercepts, domain range, all this types of stuff. So today we're going to look at a bunch of graphs that I found across the internet. Some of them are better than others, but they're all bad. That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at bad graphs today. Some of them I believe are intentionally misleading. Some of them I think are just poorly done. Some of them are just bad. Now most of the data that you're about to see, I believe, is probably accurate. I didn't check it all, but I believe the data is probably mostly good. I think it's just represented poorly. So I want to make that very clear. Now there are some of them that I think there is just bad data or no data, and I'll make that clear when we look at those graphs. Okay, let's look at our first one. Now, I'm not going to claim to be able to read this. Now, I don't know what language is going on here, but I can at least read numbers. I know numbers pretty well. So looking at this one, this looks like dates here. So this looks like January 20, January 22, January 27, 31, February 2nd, February 4th, February 9th, and February 17th. I mean, I don't know, maybe this was COVID cases in a particular place. I don't know. I don't want to misrepresent it by guessing that like that, but these are numbers nonetheless. So check this one out. The number's 145. This one's at 192. It seems like that should be a greater difference, difference of 50 there. I don't know. And then this one here, 97, that seems to line up. It's about half the size. But then 97 and 118 look to be about the same size. That's weird. And then 129 also looks to be about the same size. But then you have this one up here. What the heck? 235. If you were to double this one, 129, if you double that, that's about 260. That would get us to about here on the graph. What the heck? Why is this one so much bigger? Whoever made this is trying to make you believe that something happened on February 17th to make this data look bad or look good. I don't really know what they're trying to say. But the scale is really funny, and this is not a good graph. All right, here's another bad graph. What should cost less, a gallon of gas or a gallon of milk? This was from a newspaper poll. Sometimes I feel like this when I ask a question of the day in class, I'll ask like a this or that question, and about 43% say yes, and the others say no. When of course the only reasonable responses here are gas or milk. Bummer. Okay, here's another one. There's not actually a graph attached to it, but this is asking, should Scotland be independent? 52% people said no, 58% of people said yes. There's an issue. 110% of people voted. So, I mean, that just renders all of this data void. Like, what the heck? That doesn't add up to 100%. That's not a good graph. Or it's not even a graph, period. It's just bad data. Okay, here's a graph that is talking about the average height of males in meters. So it gives us that. So 1.85 meters, 1.8 meters, 1.75. The scale looks pretty good here. It goes up by 0.05 meters each little line here. That's fine and well. It doesn't start at 0, so that's what really throws everything off here. This makes people that are from the Netherlands look like giants, especially compared to those from the Philippines. When in reality, the height isn't that much different. 0.2 of a meter. I mean, I guess that's close to 6 inches or so. But that doesn't mean that a person from the Philippines comes up to almost somebody else's waist. Bad graph. Don't worry, I found one for females as well. This one is measured in feet and inches as we're used to. Again, comparing different countries and the height of women from those countries, the average height. So here it looks like women from Latvia are average a height of 5'5". That is fairly tall for a female, I suppose. But it makes them look like giants compared to those from India who have an average height of 5 feet. This is just a ridiculous scale over here. To make this better, you'd have to start at 0 inches and work your way up, and then it would be a more realistic scale. All right. Hey, we have a whole bunch more. I have like 30 graphs coming your way, but we're going to start getting political now. So here we go. This is from the Andrew Yang campaign. He was running for president this year on the Democratic ticket. He dropped out fairly early because he didn't get the support that he hoped he'd get. But he was really excited early on. He won. He won Iowa's official youth straw poll. I don't really know what that is, but they found value in it. So Andrew Yang, he had 22.5% of folks supporting him. That's cool. Bernie had 21%. Pete Buttigieg had 17.9. Looks like Biden had 11.5, and Elizabeth Warren had 9.6. Cool, fine. I believe the data. I have no issue with that. I haven't done the research, but I believe it. The issue I have was with this graph. Why is this bar so much bigger than this one that's at 21%? It's 1.5%. This is a bad graph. Here's another one in terms of politics. Bernie comes in dead last. Trump has a thing of 20 here. Biden has 8, and Bernie has 0. Why would there even be a bar if there was 0? What the heck? Now this is talking about the number of assault allegations. I haven't verified the data. It's probably correct. But this is a bad graph. This should be down at 0, and there should be a scale, and the graph is useless. Now I don't believe that they're trying to represent a great graph here. I think they're just looking for a graphic to share their ideas, and that's fine and well, but don't use graphs incorrectly. Come on. Okay, let's lighten things up a little bit. We got some baseball graphs here. So this guy, he was a pitcher, let's see, in 2012, 2013, he probably pitched other years too, I don't really know. But in 2012, he had this knuckleball that had a velocity of 77 miles an hour. Awesome, that's super. And then the next year, it went way down, as you can tell by the graph. It went down to 75.3 miles per hour. Yeah, there's a difference there, sure, but like, is it that graph? It looks like it's half the speed. What the heck? Bad graph. Here's a graph I found talking about military spending among world powers, is what they call them. So I guess some of the larger countries in our world. Looks like China spent about $266 billion, $52 billion in France, $51 billion in Germany, $61 billion in Russia, and $716 billion in the U.S. These are way too close. We're spending about 3 times as much as China, so our graph should be about 3 times as high. Bad graph. Okay, here's the graph where the first one that I think is intentionally misleading. I believe that the data is correct, but I believe what they're trying to represent is just not the case. So let's try to examine this before we jump to any conclusions. So gun deaths in Florida. So the number of murders committed using firearms. I think we'd all agree we want this number to be 0. So it looks like in the 1990s, this isn't a super great scale. They kind of have it separated by decade, which okay. I would prefer to see it, each year here. But early in the 1990s, supposedly there's 873 gun deaths in Florida. So number of murders committed using firearms. Okay, that's a big number. That's a bad thing. And then it looks like the data went up and up and up and up, and then it kind of dipped, and then it went up. And then in 2005, they enacted the Stand Your Ground law. And then it looks like all the murders with guns went down. And then it kind of like went up again, and now it's at 721 in the 2010s, whenever this graph was made here. It looks like in 2014, if you look here at the bottom, February 16, 2014. Okay, so there is, probably in 2013, there were 721 deaths. Fine. That number is lower than what it started with. That is good. I want less people to die. But there's something fishy here. Why did they choose the y-axis? So why did they flip the data? Why is 0 at the top, and then 200, and then 800, etc.? So it seems to me like what this graph is trying to convey is that when this law went into effect, gun deaths went down. When in fact, the first year, the law went into effect in 2005, and it looks like gun deaths were above, 650. No, sorry, it'd be the other way. So it'd be like 550-ish. I don't know, not exactly. And then the next data point, it's up above 700. That's an issue. So the law went into effect, and then all of a sudden, a lot more people started getting killed with guns. That's bad. But also, like, the data is misleading. So now I believe that there's other graphs. I believe that there's other representations of this data. Don't get me wrong. But this particular graph is a bad graph. Okay, here's talking about taxes on the news. This is old, so it looks like it's leading up to January 1st, 2013. So this must be, second half of 2012 or so that this came out. It said that the tax rate was 35% now, and then on January 1st, it's going to go way up. It's going to just go way massively up to 39.6%. These bar graphs, like they should not be that different. 35 and 39 are fairly close numbers. Now, understood tax rate, like we would prefer them to be lower. I understand that, but the scale is created such that it looks like it's this crazy monstrosity. If the Bush tax cuts expire, it makes the readers feel like, oh man, I hope those don't expire because my taxes are going to go way, way, way up. Bad graph. All right, here's another one. Gun deaths in the U.S. and in Australia. It's the rate per 100,000 people. My issue with this one, I don't even actually know who's trying to swing me one way or the other by looking at this data. But my biggest issue is over here on the left, there's a y-axis that only applies to the U.S. rate, and then on the Australian rates over here. I understand the Australian rate's way lower, but put them together. Like, make the Australian rate look like it's way lower than the U.S. rate, if that's the truth. Again, I'm not sure whose agenda is here. They do have, they throw in this gun control thing in Australia happened in '96 and whatever. But why have two y-axes? If you're going to plot the data together, plot the data together. All right, housing market quickly rebounds. There's a source here. Again, I believe the data is good, but nothing's labeled. What do these stand for? What is this 30, 40 to 80? Like, I don't know what that means. I'm assuming these numbers on the y-axis are years, 2018, 2019, 2020, but I don't know. And then they put the y-axis over here again. That's just weird. That's not necessary. Anyway, numbers went down, and then maybe they came back up. I don't really know what this is trying to say. Bad graph. All right, ready to talk about COVID? I've got a bunch of COVID stuff. So, United States incidence of COVID-19, there's some sources down here. It's a little bit dated. It's from March 23rd. It says live cases for 10 million people, total deaths for 100 million people. They graphed it all in the same place. That's fine. My issue with this one is the scale. It goes from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. It doubles every time. Now, that's fine. They do talk about it doubling, but it's misleading. You really have to look at all the pieces to make sure that this makes sense. Again, I believe the data is true, but why would you make it look like a straight line when really the data should have been shooting straight up because it's doubling very quickly. All right, here's another one. COVID cases, again, early on. There's only 3,300 cases or whenever this was. So it looks like it went to April 1. I don't know. It looks like it's in the U.S. somewhere. I don't know. But it goes up. That's fine. We know cases happen. But my issue here is with the scale. It goes from 30 to 60 to 90. That's fine. If you want to go up by 30s, go up by 30s. But then keep going up by 30. Don't go up by 10 this time, and then go up by 30 again, then by 30 again, then by 30 again. And then all of a sudden you go up by 50. What the heck? And then you go up by 10, and then you go up by 50 again, and then you go by 50, then you go by 50. Nah, be consistent. This is a bad graph. All right, another coronavirus graph. I don't really know where it came from. It's not labeled well. It's not very pretty. It says community cases, and then they go up by 0.5 every time, and they label the 0.5. So in this community, why would you count the partial person? Just count people as whole people. The scale is just funny here. Again, the data is probably fine, but the y-axis, the scale they chose to use is whack. All right, here's an important one. This one, they make a conclusion here. Younger people are driving the current surge in COVID-19 cases across Europe. It looks like on the y-axis here, number of cases, and then we have all these different lines for the different age groups. The red is the 25 to 49, this blue is 15 to 24, etc. You can see what's going on. They all look like they kind of follow the same pattern. It's like not very many at all, then boom, we had a ton, and then it went down, and it's kind of creeping up again. Even this little hump right here, they all seem to kind of have that. And then it's the x-axis here is the weeks into 2020, and it goes up by 5 each time. I'm cool with the scales here. That's fine. My issue here is with the conclusion. Younger people are driving the current surge. Well, notice here the red one, yeah, there's more people in this red category. The red category also covers 25 years, whereas this category covers 9 years. This category covers 15. This category covers, well, that's an interesting one, 65 plus and 15 and below. It's kind of open-ended for the 65 plus. But you can't say younger people are driving the surge when you purposely pick a larger group of people and plot the total number of cases. Bad graph. All right, here's a graph. I believe it's from Brazil. Again, I don't know all the words, but we can see what we can see. So it looks like there's dates here on the bottom. I'm going to assume that they're all good and going up by 1, or at least going up by the same measure. So these are different areas, I'm supposing, and the number of cases that are attached to it. My issue here is with the y-axis. Down here, it's very slim. 0 to 10. Like these are all good numbers. All these 0 to 10, that's great. But then all of a sudden, for the same distance, it goes up to 100, and then it goes to 1,000. Like this yellow group was over 1,000 right here, and it looks like it's worse than these people here. But these people were less than 10. These people were at 1,000. That's a huge difference. The scale, I feel like the scale is irresponsible. Bad graph. All right, this one has a no-no word. So if you're tuning me out, hopefully this brings you back in, right? So LA County has reached a record number of cases. We haven't flattened anything. Stay home and wear your mask. That's this comment. This was a screenshot. Somebody probably posted this on social media, right? So there's data here. It looks like February, March, April, May, June. Fine. These all go up by 10,000. That's fine. The data is like, okay, we have this many cases, and it goes up, and then it goes up, and it goes up, and it goes up. And this person's like, man, wear your mask. We haven't flattened anything. And the looks like the official report here is over the past week, the county averaged this many new cases, this many new deaths. That's bad. Yeah, all of that stuff is bad. We don't want people dying. But the issue here is with reading a graph. It says right here, cumulative cases by day. That means it keeps adding up every time. This isn't going to flatten out ever. It's going to keep going up because if it's cumulative cases, it can't go down. It's not going to flatten until, well, I guess when it hits zero, it's going to flatten. But this is a bad graph. I should make this clear. The graph is fine. It's the interpretation that's poor here. This is a bad interpretation of a graph that's probably fine. Again, I'm assuming the data is correct. Oh man, this video is already getting longer than I thought. Thanks for sticking with me. Here's another lighthearted one. Basketball. Which opposing young star are you most excited to see? It looks like 10% are Joel Embiid, 19% Ben Simmons, Giannis Antetokounmpo, 65%, and 6% with this guy, Karl Anthony Towns. Why does Joel Embiid get such a big bar for only having 10% and his teammate Ben Simmons has almost twice as many people interested? What the heck? Bad graph. Okay, here's the first one where I think the data is bad. The decline of artistic standards, and they make it look like a graph. The scale here is standards. What's that mean? How do you measure standards? I don't know. Then they have these years. They go up by 50-year increments. The x-axis seems fine. And then it says art reduced to personal expression. And then I guess the standards are 0, but they used to be up, and then they kind of wavered and whatever. There's no data for this. This is just a graphic to share some sort of agenda. I'm not sure what they're trying to share, but it's the bad graph, bad data, just all around bad. Here's another one, and I'm not trying to pretend that I think that this is supposed to be real data or that they think this is supposed to be real data. I think this is a graphic to push whatever they're trying to push, get you to click on the video. But make men masculine again, because they used to be kind of masculine, and now they're up here, they turned pink and they're feminine. Yikes, uh-oh. So we better graph this and whatever. Bad graph, not a graph. If you have ideas to share like this, okay. But don't make graphs. Don't try to tell it. Let's say it's science or anything like that, or say that it's real math. Because this isn't real data. This isn't a real graph. This is not okay. Okay, here's an ad that was on social media. It looks like there's a line that just goes up, and it's saying 49% Trump, 48% Biden, and you can see a little difference in these lines. Arizona choice for president, and if you click on it, you can pay them $10. What's the data here? Maybe the 49 and 48 means something, but you shouldn't graph them like this. And I don't know. This is not a good graph. Okay, here's another graph. Social media post. Kamala Harris, they say posted, who's running for VP right now with Joe Biden, and it looks like Ohio, Georgia, Iowa. These approval ratings, I'm supposing here, or maybe like polls, like for the election. The issue here is the one that's circled. Biden has 49.4% here, and Trump has 49.6% here. That's really close. Why is why does his bar look bigger here? What the heck? I don't know what they're trying to accomplish here, but bad graph regardless. Another post on social media, wages and productivity have stopped rising together. It looks like productivity keeps going up this red line. Wages are this white line here. My issue with this one is that there's no y-axis. That's just an issue. The x-axis, it looks like it goes up in fairly even intervals. Again, the data might be correct. The data might be just fine, but the graph itself, though it looks pretty, doesn't tell us much without a y-axis there. It could be a total lie if the scale is all wacky. So bad graph. Okay, this was probably in 2016, 2017, early approval ratings. Presidents always get rated by somebody, who knows, and then that data is recorded. And so there's all these different presidents here, and their approval ratings early on in their presidency, and then there's Trump down here, and it's like, almost nothing. It's even a different color, and it looks so little, just to make him look so inferior to all these other folks, all these other previous presidents. When in reality, the scale starts at 40. He's not that far behind most of them. He seems to be the lowest on there, but he's not that far behind. So this graph is trying to make you believe, like, oh, everybody hates this guy. And that's whether that's true or not, this graph is bad. All right, this one is a fun mix of both COVID and politics. Whoa, best of both worlds, right? So how rates of cases in Trump and Clinton counties compare. So the last election, Clinton was one of the candidates, Trump was the other one. Trump obviously won. And they're comparing the counties that these different candidates won and their COVID rates. I don't even know why this is valuable information, but there's a graph, so let's examine it. The x-axes look fine. They go up seemingly even intervals of a month at a time. Y-axis for this first graph, they go up by 50, that's fine. Y-axis for this other one goes up by 20, that seems fine to me. So let's look at this first one. It says number of counties with high infection rates. So the counties that Trump won, there are way more counties that he won with high infection rates than Clinton, or at least like 50, more than 50 more. Okay, fine. I believe the data is right, but okay. 60 cases per 10,000. So in here, now it's saying that Clinton, there's more people that voted for, or more people in counties that voted for Clinton have COVID. In fact, by quite a large margin. Not quite 3 times as much, but at least double. And that's, that seems bad. So it really depends on like what side you're on, which graph you pick here, right? So it's nice to see them both together at least. So here's my issue with this. In the election itself, way more counties voted for Trump. A lot of the rural areas voted for Trump. And so that makes sense. If he won way more counties are going to be infected. Fine. Now, on the other side of the coin, more people voted for Clinton. So it makes sense that more people who voted for Clinton are going to be affected. Okay, that makes sense. In addition to that, where are these people located? Folks that are in more rural areas aren't going to have as much interaction, aren't going to be as infected as much. Okay, that makes sense why this is so low. Folks in more urban areas, more cities and whatnot, there's more interaction, more infection is going to happen. And so that explains this piece. So like, even though this data is right, it doesn't really tell us much. It's just like don't let these types of things, say like, oh yeah, my team is better than the other team. Even if the data is correct here and whatnot, we have to understand like what's the context of the graph. Okay, this one builds on the previous one a little bit. This is the U.S. The red areas are counties that voted for Trump, and the blue areas are counties that voted for Clinton. And it says right here, this data is probably correct. I don't know. It doesn't seem super official, but these numbers match a lot of the other stuff that I read. So there's 3,083 counties in the U.S., 2,500, almost 2,600 of the counties were won by Trump, and 486 counties were won by Clinton. And here's the map, right? It seems like super Trumpy. Fine. I mean, he did win. He's our current president. But it's still, the fact remains, more people voted for Clinton. So like these pockets, there's more people in these pockets that voted blue. I'm not trying to make a statement one way or the other, but this graph is misleading. This makes it look like most of the people in the U.S. voted for Trump, when in fact less people did. So this graph, while it's accurate, I feel like it's misrepresenting the data. All right, team, thanks for sticking with me. We're getting close. Let's talk about the cost of gas. Again, I don't quite know the context. I don't know what year this was. But whenever it was, it said last year gas was $3.17 national average. And then last week it was $3.51. And then this week it's $3.57. Please don't ever have an x-axis where it starts with last year and then the next data point is last week and then the next data point is today. If you can have the same amount of distance for 7 days as you do for 365, that's an issue. So again, I don't know what they're trying to convey with this, but bad graph. They've already lost credibility. Okay, here's the last one. This is a poll talking about the chance of winning from the two presidential candidates for the election that's next month. So one of the candidates is here in blue, and the other one is here in red. These are the electoral votes. It's the way that our election works. It's an interesting system. There's arbitrary numbers based on population, and you try to get these electoral votes. So it's not that the individual vote matters. It's that we kind of pool these votes and you get like points for your team or whatever. So it says that this candidate's going to win and this candidate's probably going to lose. They ran, this was actually, I just updated this on tonight. So it was October 14th is when I got this data. And they said they ran like 40,000 simulations, and this is what the data that they got. Okay, well, I believe that, and I believe that they're smart, and I believe that they're statisticians, and that's great. It's the website's called 548. They're well respected for their data and stuff like this. But why even talk about this? What's the point of talking about polling and whatnot? Is this going to change your attitude? Is it going to change who you vote for? No, it shouldn't. whether your person is the one on the bottom, your person is the one on the top, or you're voting for one of the third parties, whatever. I think like this data might be good and it looks really fancy and it looks really well. But what's the point? Don't let this I wouldn't let this type of data change your mind. Even though it looks really fancy, it looks really sciencey, whatever. It shouldn't change what you're gonna do. If your person's winning, are you just gonna not vote? Or if your person's losing, are you just not gonna vote? It shouldn't change your behavior. I suppose maybe it could prepare you a little bit, like, okay, this person's probably gonna win. You know, either it's my person or the other person. Fine. But polls, like graphs like this, I'm not saying this is a bad graph. I'm saying I don't understand the purpose of it, and I don't get too wrapped up in these ideas. Now there might be some value maybe from an economic standpoint, like if one person wins and the person loses, like you can kind of speculate on what's going to happen in the future. But again, it's all speculation. So be extra careful when you're reading graphs. Okay, we've looked at a lot of graphs. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for listening to me rant about bad graphs. I did my best to represent different political sides, different ideas here, and there's just a lot of bad graphs. Most of them, the scale is bad or not labeled. Some of them, they're intentionally bad, trying to mislead you. You're going to find these things all over the place. I'm sure you've seen graphs in social media. I'm sure you've seen graphs on the news and whatnot. Just be really careful. Don't let other people interpret data for you. If you see a graph, try to interpret it yourself versus just letting whoever's giving you the data tell you what it's saying. It's always an issue when someone says, here, look at my data, and this is like I'm right and you're wrong. Like, no, I'm going to read your data. I'm going to interpret it after I believe that your data's got to be true first of all, and once you can establish that it's true, then see if the graph is good. Okay, long video. You're awesome. No assignment attached to this video other than watching the video itself. We're going to discuss a little bit here in a bit. So come back into the main room there, out of the breakout room, and we'll chit chat a little bit. All right.